text declares, raise yourself, O Ka, for Ma'at has opened your path. You shall ascend as a living star amongst the imperishable ones. Utterance 373. O maximally great Mother, O maximally great Father, O infinite consciousness who flows through the Neteru and breathes through our blood, we stand as one resurrected, one who would say, open the way in our bones, open the way in our breath, open the way in our melanin, open the way in our minds, open the way in every ancestral cell that remembers who we are. For the ancient text declares, Ma'at is the light within your heart. By her you live, by her you rise. Coffin text spell 80. May the primordial waters of noon rise gently within us and wash away every false name, every false story, every false limitation we have ever accepted. May the sacred winds of Shu fill our lungs until our ribs open like the wings of Kepra at dawn. May the solid earth of Geb anchor our feet so deeply in the divine purpose that no storm within or without may move us. May the sky of Nut arch over our crown and pour her star fire into our pineal gland until it glows like the Bin stone of creation itself. O Ma'at, feather of truth, balancer of all things, opener of the ways, steady our hearts and align our steps. Limestone, the soft stone of temples and tombs, reminds us that our subconscious mind, soft, receptive, ready to be carved by truth. As the ancients carved the stories into limestone, so may Ma'at carve clarity, discipline, righteousness into our inner walls. The sandstone, strong yet flexible, mirrors our emotional body, able to withstand heat, pressure, and change. May our feelings become sturdy yet adaptable, grounded in the compassion and the humility and patience. And granted, the eternal stone of the obelisk, the Teket, the Scapharai, the kings reflect our divine will, unyielding, destined, and royal. May our purpose stand as firm as granite, unmovable by illusion or fear, rooted in cosmic identity. The basalt, the black volcanic stone born from fire, represents the transformation of purification. And may our inner flame burn away doubt, trauma, inherited limitations, so we may rise anew. The dorite stone, one of the hardest stones ever shaped, symbolizes the precision and the mastery and the unbreakable character. May our virtues be etched into us with the actual perfection of a dorite statue, exact and everlasting. These sacred stones are not outside of us. They are us. They cry out our memory, our emotions, our will, our fire, and our divine mastery. We call now to every ancestor whose blood is our blood, whose breath is our breath, whose prayers are our prayers, who built the bridges that we walk upon. Awaken in us. Awaken in our red blood cells carrying courage and memory. Awaken in our white blood cells carrying protection and clarity. Awaken in our bones carved like the stone stele, holding the hieroglyphic mental nature of our lineage. Awaken in our melanin, that cosmic energy, that cosmic intelligence, which reminds us and remembers the first dawn, the first breath, the first spark. Let our DNA unroll like a sacred scroll, revealing codes of genius, resilience, beauty, power, divine assignment. Let every cell become a shrine. Let every organ become a temple. Let every heartbeat become the drum of the shaman and the breath of the creator and the creatress within us.
Let the 42 virtues of Mayat rise as frequencies in our aura, truth in our mouths, justice in our walk, balance in our choices, harmony in our relationships, order in our thinking, reciprocity in our giving, and righteousness in our living. Let discipline rise like dorite. Let the resilience rise like basalt. Let our emotional clarity rise like sandstone. Let the memory rise like limestone. Let purpose rise like granite. May we embody the 7 principles of Mayat: truth, justice, balance, harmony, order, reciprocity, and righteousness, not as words that we speak, but as frequencies we radiate. Let every breath that we take be weighed against the feather of Mayat, and let all of our hearts remain light. O Neteru within us and around us, clear every blockage, break every ancestral chain, dissolve every inherited fear, and replace them with clarity, expansion, and divine instruction. By the lakes of fire and the lake of life, ignite and cleanse us. Burn away everything that is not aligned within our highest design, and fill us with living water for the journey ahead. For the coffin text declares, you are purified in the lake of fire and renewed in the lake of cool waters. Rise in us in the Djed pillar, every vertebrae by vertebrae, every memory by memory, until we stand upright in power, destiny, and resurrection. And by the power of the Ka, animate us by the power of the Ba. Guide us by the power of the Ku. Make us shine by the power of our Rin. Make us vibrate divinely. Establish our legacies across dimensions. For the ancient text declares, your name shall not perish, it shall live as the living stars. From this breath forward, we decree and declare that every ancestral cell in our bodies is activated in Mayat. Every talent that was buried is now resurrecting. Every gift hidden is now rising. Every womb is becoming wisdom. Every blockage is becoming fire. Every step we take is the opening of the way for those who walk behind us. For the Merkut pyramid text proclaims, the path is open for you. Walk as the gods, walk as the Neterus, and shine as the stars. We open the way. We open the way. We hold the way. And we hold the way. We become the way. And we become the way. Mayat before us. Mayat behind us. Mayat above us. Mayat beneath us. Mayat within us. Mayat as us. Ashe. Seneb. And so it is. And so shall it be. Ashe and Ashe. Uncle Job Seneb. Divine Family of Mayat Trilogy Night Show. We are here for another one. As we gather tonight within the sacred currents of Gate 4, Hour 4, the hour of remembering. The hour where the scattered fragments of the soul are gathered and reassembled into divine coherence. The multiverse has aligned us with a vessel whose very life and artistry mirrors the reflection and the resurrection codes within the cosmic chambers of the Book of Gates. Tonight, we welcome Sehu Amennun, a master scribe, a matriarchal man, a multidisciplinary creator whose brush, voice, and pen and pulse moves with the sensual electricity of the divine feminine and the divine fire of the divine masculine. He is a United States Marine Corps veteran who organized the Pan-African Saba study group while stationed in Okinawa, a scholar of psychology and a fine arts tantric yoga teacher. He is also a Taoist sexual alchemy teacher and the sacred teachings of Sehu Amennun. He has taught sex education, leadership, mass making,
and mural-based community transformation, and he has founded organizations dedicated to the cultural rebirth, such as the Pan-African Youth Corps and the Goddess Her Story. And he continues to study and transmit esoteric wisdom through philosophical Fat Tuesdays. And so, above all, he is a scribe of spirit, a poet of the unseen, a builder of worlds, and a keeper of erotic divinity who uses art as a portal back into our most ancient memory. So, tonight, he brings us Asar, Auset, the Passion Play, not merely as a story, but as a primordial blueprint for resurrection, moral law, and sacred sexuality, divine justice, and the cosmic dance between destruction and remembering. Family, open your hearts tonight, and you're going to be opening up your higher senses as we welcome to the sacred court of Maat, Sehu Amennun, also known as the Pantherion Prime, who now steps forward to guide us deeper into the mysteries of the first resurrection. Brother Sehu Amennun, you may enter into the fourth hour, marching forth by day and sailing through the celestial sky by night through the gate 4. Let us receive him as he comes with the Shemhotep, as he enters into the hall of double truth of Maat, with glowing rays shining upon the minds tonight.
The title of this poem is called The Truth About Medusa. I actually wrote this poem for Auset Dance Collective. I was working as their dramaturg, and they asked me to write a poem for a dance that they were doing, a dance performance that was the playing out of Medusa, the African queen, not the monster that you hear about in the Greek story. All right, so I'll just jump straight into it. I'll explain this much though. You're gonna hear some words that might be new to you, but I'm sure that you'll be able to follow what it is I'm saying. Okay. The truth about Medusa, not a patriarchal specter nor a monster, but the moon's third. Originally, Grand Matriarch and Moon Maiden came simultaneously on one name at first. One half later cursed by the worst of the worst on the scene as Obscene, otherwise known as Matisse. Splintered when the double axe entered from the hand of Mercury into the mind of Zeus and re-emerged expurged as the virgin daughter Athene, also known as Neith, when she was an Egyptian, but now somehow incomplete, she ever on the verge of making defensive warfare, herself against herself, the virgin versus the crone, no truce. The virtue of the verse lies in the connecting lines between the words you have heard and the truth. No one to correct the mess made of the mysteries, the original story. No poet left to sing the mythological allegory. The lecture, now sectioned with a fraction of seconds from its original reckoning, like the separating of a daughter cell in reverse parthenogenesis. So respect her, holy goddess or body born on the shores of Lake Chartonis, living face reflected in the mask of Gorgon. Fear only injected of the hearts of those souls not perfected. Hands off, no man handling the queen of the Amazons. For 25 years, fear of the fiery flame from the crescent bow kept Greek heads low. Lunar mind descendants in the wombs of African women, oracular offerings reminiscent of the zodiacal call. Memory recurrent in the moon flow. Mere mortal men dare not, nor care not to tread, petrified in the path by the Djed, as she looses the locks on her head, electrified. The petite mort is the rigor of rigor mortis and the rites of the dead. And it's in peace. Yes, Dwa. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. As the brother said, my name, my Rin, is Sehu Amennun. Sehu means sage or one who is humble to wisdom. And Amennun are two of the four primordial energies at creation, or actually before creation, because Amen means the hidden, and Nun means the potential of the hidden. So my name can be translated as the hidden nature of potential. The Neter, I interchange that with nature because this is the root of that sound that we use for the word nature. It's Neter or nature. So I am the hidden nature of potential. And what I want to do this evening is to share with you the greatest love story that's ever been told, the story of Auset and Asar, uh, also known as Isis and Osiris in the Greek. But in the Kemetic, I'll use Asar and Auset. And just to give you a backdrop, as I go ahead and get into the story is about Asar, who is born from Nut, and also with Auset, born from Nut. They are said to be brother and sister, but also husband and wife. This is metaphorical because we understand that the deities, as they call them, the principles, the Neteru, are just that, the principles that are alive in us. And so we take on these principles in ourselves. We become the Neteru and we manifest their qualities. Osir is the quality of oneness. He's unity. He's all things in all things. So he's said to be the supreme, the supreme deity in earthly flesh. That's the manifestation of divine nature in a human being. The story starts out in Kemet, and it was in a state of disarray and chaos called Asphet in the Metu Neter. Asphet is the opposite and the antithesis of Ma'at. Ma'at, of course, we know is truth, justice, order, reciprocity, propriety, and order, and justice. Did I say justice? And anyway, there are 7 principles of Ma'at, and these he lived by, and it was seen by the senior Neteru that he manifested these qualities in his living, and he was able to influence the people in following Ma'at. They got out of Asret and into the practice of Ma'at. He also, with his wife Aset, taught people the cultivation of fruits and vegetables. Before that, they weren't doing any of that. It became an agrarian culture where they grew crops in order to manifest food, but the the spiritual aspect of planting crops is a metaphor for the physical. So he was also teaching them how to plant seeds spiritually and to manifest things. And this he became exalted in the eyes of the people. And in doing this, he had such success in the land of Kemet, he decided that he would go and he would spread it, in different nations. So he left on a campaign to take the knowledge of agriculture to other civilizations. And he was very successful in doing that. And there was a big celebration that was being thrown for him on his arrival back into Kemet, that was thrown for him by his brother, Set. Set is the representation of anti-Ma'at. He's the opposite of everything that deals with cosmos or order. Chaos and cos actually come from the same root. Chaos, it has the A inserted into cos or cosmology or cosmos, as in like the universe, the universal teaching. It was against the universal teachings. And Set embodied that uh, the deviation away from the divine order. And so he was riddled with all kinds of negativity, one of them being jealousy. And he was jealous of all of the attention that Osea was getting, all of the praise and the accolades that people had for him. They had a pageant for him, a big celebration. And he came back into the city, came back into Kemet on a big celebration. Everybody was excited to see him. And Set acted like he was excited to see him as well. and he offered to the guest as a conversation piece. He had a coffin that he said whoever could fit in the coffin most comfortably, they could have it as a gift for their own burial. And so everybody tried to get into the coffin to no avail. None of them were able to fit comfortably in the coffin. They were either too large for it or too small. They couldn't fit into it. And then finally it came to Sarah, and they coaxed him into doing it. He was a little reluctant at first, but he said, "Oh, okay, I guess I'll try it. Nobody else could fit it, so I'll try it." He gets into the coffin, and Set has 72 Confederates that are with him. Confederate, the root of that word is con and fed, against the government. So they were against the government of balance and order. And these 72 Confederates are the 72 spirits of Mercury in astrology. And Mercury is the deity that is the trickster and also the one that causes trouble. So these 72 spirits of Mercury helped him slam the coffin shut and pour lead over it so that he was stuck in the coffin, and he would suffocate as a result of this. Set took the coffin and threw it into the Nile River. And during that period of time, everything in the land of Kemet came to like a slow halt. Well, actually, it was a quick halt. It was very immediate when the principle of unity itself was taken away from the people. And Assad was grieving over the fact that her husband had been murdered, and so she went looking for him, and she cried the whole way. And they said that her tears were her crying out was so intense that it caused other women to also mourn him. And so we see in the reenactment of the story of Osir, because they did this exactly as it's portrayed in the living of it. It was a pageant. They had a big celebration that represented the coming of Osir back into the land of Kemet. And then they had a ritual mourning, and they actually had professional mourners do this after the resurrection of Osir, which I'll get into. Anyway, Auset goes in search of his body, and she finds his body in a marsh, in a swamp. And so she takes his body from the coffin, and then she says, "Let me go and get some swaddling, some grave clothes for his body." So she left his body there because she couldn't carry it by herself. She went and she got the things, and she came back only to find that his body had been chopped into 14 pieces. And it's interesting because it was the full moon, and there are 28 mansions of the moon. 14 are from new moon to full moon, and the other 14 are from full moon back to new moon. Set found his body at the full moon because he was out hunting. He hunted at night. The body was scattered across the land, and Auset went in search of each of the pieces of Osir's body. And everywhere that she found a piece of his body, she erected a shrine in honor of that piece of his body. And she took the piece and left the shrine. And this is one of the reasons why we have so many different variations of the Kemetic spirituality, and that later became religions for different people. But a lot of the things we see in spiritual practices in other nations, they got from Kemet. In this Kush, it used to be what India is now. So the whole science of meditation and yoga actually comes from Kemet. And this is some of what was left when she left when she took the piece of body and she left the shrine. So they had a piece of the knowledge that is Osir. Osir is said to be the manifestation of the all in all things in all things, and he used to unify. So without him, of course, Kemet went back into Esfat, and the people were, at odds with each other. They argued. There was injustice, and basically there was just a bunch of havoc in the land. So she goes in search of these pieces of the body and gets them and puts them back together. She elicits Sebek, or I'm sorry, Anpu, Anpu, and also Nabtet, which was her sister. Uh, Anpu was the dog-headed or the jackal-headed deity or netter, who, because of his keen sense of smell, was able to find the pieces uh, for Auset. So he was an aid for her in that journey of getting the pieces of the body of Auset back together. All of the pieces except for one were found, and she had to make another one in order to revive him. She made it of gold, and gold in alchemy, the root of the word alchemy comes from chem, and we know that chem means black. To be singed or burned until it's turned black is what alchemy, that science that predated chemistry, was called. It was called alchemy because it dealt with chem, it dealt with the blackness, it dealt with the burning of substance until it transforms into another substance. The only the only metal that keeps its glitter, its gloss, its ability to shine at high heat is gold. All others dissipate after a certain level or temperature it is exposed to. So her taking the body from a lead box, a lead coffin, a lead covered coffin, the uh, the science of alchemy deals with the changing of lead to gold. So by taking this gold piece and performing mantras, which in the Kemetic language are called hekau. It's interesting because heck or hecht, it's the word that is the origin of that. Hecht is actually a goddess. She's the goddess of mantras or words of power. So the mantras that you see the Hindus use actually come from her. She is the mother of words. You hear them say, this is the mother tongue, because mother is the one who teaches us language at first. And so you understand that this was a matriarchal and agrarian society that he had set up in Kemet. And putting the body back together, she conceived Heru, which was the recoming of the ancestor of Oser in physical form. Aset understood that this was going to be a child that she would have to protect. So you see the statues of Aset, which her crown is often confused with being that of Heteru, which is the horn disc. It has the planet Venus or the moon in the top of the disc, and the horns, which are associated with the sign of Taurus in astrology. But Set's crown is actually a throne, and it was a throne because in a matriarchal society, the kingship came through the motherline, and the motherline was the basis of identifying who the child was as far as royalty. So it was said by kings after Heru that I rise to my mother's lap when they were being inaugurated into being king. And so we see the images of Heru sitting on his mother's lap and suckling when he's a boy. So, Heru eventually grows up to be an adult, and he gets into a series of battles with Set, because Set wants to take over the kingdom, and he wants to do it by force, and he wants to do it by saying that that Heru is not Osiris' true heir. So there's no way that he could be the one that would become king or pharaoh. So there are these fights that happen between Set and Heru. Sometimes Heru would win, or sometimes he would lose to Set. And then they would go back at it again to these battles that they went and they raged on. Heru is associated with the sun. So he represented when he was winning, it was a representation of the light. He's associated also with Ra, the Most High at noon. He carried and he embodied that energy. And Set, the root of the word Set is associated with Satan and also sunset. So he was the manifestation of the sun setting and the darkness. And like I told you, he was hunting from full moon uh, with the following of the waning of the moon being the breaking down of the body of a Ser. And the story goes that Heru eventually overcomes Set with the help of Tahuti. Tahuti is the ibis-headed, some say stork, but he's an ibis. That's the actual proper name for the bird. And we see that the anthropomorphic, meaning man-like or man-associated, presentation of Tahuti was with this crown that also had a head that was the ibis. His crown was made up of horns and also the moon, similar to Heru. But he was the one who gave the knowledge of writing and of science and of agriculture, along with Asher, because he was the right hand man for Asher. He was like the vice president. And when Asher passed and they were resurrecting his body, the whole scene that we get in the 42 declarations of innocence had to be said over the body of Asher so that he would be able to live in they call it the underworld, but it's actually called the Duat. And the Duat was where he reigned then because he had become an ancestor, one of the Shepsut. And Heru was king of the external world, of the conscious, the conscious level of people. Heru is also associated with the will, and his using the strength and the powers that he inherited from his father made him king again. But he had to defeat Set in that process, and through his restoring the kingdom, Ma'at was established back in the kingdom. And it was done uh, by the reciting of the 42 declarations of innocence, or the Pert and Heru, as it's called in the Kemetic language, the book of coming forth by day. And the 42 declarations of innocence had to be spoken over his body in order for him to go into the afterworld. There were 4 canonic jars, which represented the 4 elements, and 4 internal body parts that were set aside afterwards for people who were mummified. Their internal organs were taken and put into these canoptic jars, they call them. And Asher lived for an eternity. He still lives in us because he's the unifier still, but he's just the unifier in the subconscious. The conscious manifestation of the will, our doing things in a willful manner, is what Heru is. So we become Heru in that manifest of our will to do things. And Aser of course, supports that because he is the king of Kemet, and Heru becomes his heir. He becomes the heir to the throne. And the throne, of course, is Auset, because her name, Auset, means seat. It comes from the word seat comes from Ast or Auset. So she wears the crown, and he gives deference to her. And you see images of Asher, Auset, and Heru standing together as a trinity. The origins of the Trinity are Kemetic, and they're not Christian. So a lot of what we see in the language of the Meduna Ter and the Perkim Heru actually can be found in other nations. The, it's been said that there were 10 declarations of innocence that were taken from the 42 declarations of innocence. The difference between those two, I find interesting. And in my studies, I look at this a little more in depthly. There's a difference in the way the declarations of innocence are spoken of in relationship to the 10 commandments. You have commandments in the 10 principles of Judaism, where it said, "Thou shalt not." You're being told. It's as if you're being told by an authority not to commit certain sins. In the Persian Haru, it is said, "I have not committed adultery." Not "thou shalt not commit adultery." You had to already be living Ma'at to be able to say that on judgment. After Aser went into the realm of the ancestors, in order for a person to go into the realm of the ancestors instead of uh, being consumed by this entity called Om, you could say he was the abyss. He would eat their heart if their heart was not found to be light as a feather. I know that Ma'at, you study Ma'at and you know that the weighing of the heart against the feather is a part of what that practice is. But it began with Osher. Osher was the first to have his heart weighed against the feather. And Ma'at was present because she herself was the scales, even though she didn't physically embody the scales, the scales embodied her. She was the one that carried the energy of truth and balance and righteousness. And Sarah had to emulate those particular virtues in order to have a heart that was light as a feather. And so this becomes the objective of anybody that's trying to follow the principles of Ma'at, setting order into their lives so that there's not a spirit of condemnation. We see with European spiritual traditions, all Eastern and Southeast Asian, Southwest Asia, because you're talking about the Muslims. There is this male deity that's at the heart of their religious traditions. And even though we have Osir in the Kemetic tradition, Osir and Auset have the same root of their names, and it is the mantra Om, which is where the term Ankh comes from, which means life. They were the embodiment of life, and this is what they were teaching the people. This is what uh, brought people out of Asfet and into Ma'at, because they were living the principles and they were able to speak with authority. I have not committed adultery. I have not. It. I found it also interesting that one of the declarations of innocence is, I have not polluted water. So they were conscious of the environment, and that there's this natural balance that has to happen from human beings being the stewards of the creation. We're created. We're born. Well, we're born from the womb of Nut, and also Shu, and the manifestation of ourselves is the principles of air and also earth. The Shu divided the earth from the celestial sky as Nup, and we see that this is also a part of the tradition of Kemet. We see that the living being the living manifestations of the Nataru are what it is that each person who's who is striving to live Ma'at that they do. They become the living embodiment of Osir and the living embodiment of Haru and also the living embodiment of Aset. They have uh, they have a ritual called the Showers of Aset, where uh, ritual mourners, people who were women who were priestesses, actually literally went through the process of weeping like Aset did for Sarah. And when she went and she got all of these pieces of his body, she remembered them or put the members of his body back together. Memory is also a big thing with Aset. Aset is memory, and she's also meditation. And also with meditation, there is the mantras or the hakao. She used the hakao to actually bring Aset back to life. And although she was alive in the subconscious, the underworld, but she brought him back to life, and that's the hope of every Kemetic citizen is to live my art in such a way as to be able to go before the scales of my art and have their heart weighed against the feather and still be shown as light as a feather.
That is good, powerful, my brother. That is so powerful. And you just witnessed some awesome information and how he was able to give us the living water of the Nile, and it flows through our ka. And so what we have here and what we've just received is basically the heartbeat of our four through gate 4 of the Book of Gates, where Auset travels the land to gather the 14 pieces of Asar, reflecting our own journey to reclaim the fragmented memories, the
Yes.
wounded emotions and the dormant gifts and the severed or the severed aspects, of our divinity. And so for what Sehu was describing, the sorrows, the devotion, and the miraculous precision of Aset,
Mm,
we're reminded that resurrection is not an event, it is a
mm,
patient and powerful
mhm,
decision.
mm.
And in this hour, we learn that desire becomes discipline, and
Yes.
chaos becomes order, and loss becomes learning, and
Mm,
death becomes movement towards new life.
yes.
And so his retelling of the missing reproductive member mirrors the alchemy of
Mm,
truth, that every
mm,
soul must reconstruct its own instrument of purpose. And the golden wheel, the restored identity, the creative
mm.
fire formed in the furnace of transformation.
Yes.
And so the passion play that he shared tonight reveals that our fragments are not our failures, but our
Mm,
ingredients. And that
yes.
every set and every betrayer and every disruption becomes part of the sculpting force that prepares us for resurrection. And
Yes.
so his voice tonight carried the echoes of Aset's devotion and Asar's endurance and Haru's inevitable emergence, teaching us that no matter how deeply life scatters us, we have the
Mhm.
power to remember ourselves
Yes.
again.
Yes.
And so, as Gate 4 and Hour 4 closes for this evening, we honor the parable of Aset, the restorer, the parable of Asar, the renewed, the parable of Haru, the avenger of purpose, knowing that these parables is our map and that their resurrection is our responsibility. And
Yes.
so may the digestive fire of this gate break down the old and absorb the true, and
Mm,
eliminate the false, And may
Right.
your walk, be knowing that you too can resurrect. You, yes, you can remember. And you too can rise as Asar within your own life. And so, Uncle Jasaneb, divine family, and may your hearts remain light as a feather of Mayat, and your mind be clear, and your spirit ready for ascension as we continue our journey through Gate 5 and Hour 5 of the Kemetic Book of Gates next week.
O boundless consciousness, whose heartbeat becomes the Neteru, draw near as we ascend. We gather tonight as children of Mayat, balanced in thought, breath, organs, and intention, rising through the inner gates like the sunboat at midnight, as the Merkut Pyramid text declares, I am the one who ascends upon the smoke. My place is among the great congregation. Let our prayers rise exactly as that smoke rise. Purify us with the fire that does not burn. Wash us with the water that remembers creation. Crown us with the light that cannot be dimmed. For the coffin text declared, my heart is the heart of Mayat. It is she who guides my steps as I cross the hidden places. So let Mayat guide every step we take right now. O great Mother and Father, illuminate our bodies as temples of cosmic law. Let our lungs expand like newt across the sky. Our spines rise like the Djed in the festival. Our hearts weigh true against the feather of the eternal truth. For the pyramid text declares, I have become a netter whose heart is righteous. I have passed through the places of darkness and emerged in the light. May this righteousness become our daily vibration. We call upon the mysteries of the Book of Gates, for we have walked the carvings of the night within ourselves. We have seen our shadows and did not flee. We have faced the coils of darkness and did not bend. And the Book of Gates declared, he who knows their names is not stopped. The doors are open at his voice, and the watchers bow before his light. So tonight, every door opens, every watcher bows, and every shadow dissolves in our rising. O infinite consciousness, rise up within us, the Djed, until every vertebrae becomes a rung of heaven. Strengthen our Ka until our will become your will. Our law becomes your law. Brighten our Ku until we shine like the stars in the sky. Steady our Ib, our heart, until no falsehood can enter. Sanctify our Rin, our name, so it echoes across lifetimes. For the coffin text declared, I am he who becomes renewed. My light returns each day. My power is not diminished. Let our light return renewed in this very moment. O Mayat, eternal balance of the universe, enter our bloodstream, through our thought stream, through our destiny stream. Fill us with your 42 virtues, truth in every word, balance in every breath, justice in every action, harmony in every bond, righteousness in every intention. For the pyramid text declared, Mayat is placed upon your brow, and your face shines with her radiance. Let her radiance become our crown forever. O great Mother, O great Father, wrap us now in the infinite and lift us into the eternal realms where fear cannot speak and forgetfulness cannot enter. Cloak us with the eternal fire. Bathe us in the original waters. Crown us in the dawn that never fades. For the Book of Gates declared, the soul that knows the paths walk with Ra and becomes his power. We become that power. We become that flame. We become that sunrise. We rise in Mayat. We stand in Mayat. and we breathe through Mayat, and we live Mayat, and we ascend by Mayat. Ashe, Amun, Ankh, Uja, Sene.